Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Before we get started, Mr. Needles, can you take roll call, please?
Sure thing. Commissioner Baiocco?
Here.
Commissioner Gaudioso?
Here.
Commissioner Rakowski?
Here.
Commissioner Whitaker?
Here.
Commissioner Neary?
Here.
Michael Pierce?
Here.
Lisa Catania?
Here.
And myself, George Needles, present.
Thank you. Just a brief announcement. Last week, February 4th, and tonight, the board met in executive session to discuss various litigation and personnel matters. With that said, I'd like to move on to citizen comments. Individuals may call in by dialing 571-748-4021. Again, the number is 571-748-4021. The PIN to enter is 835-015-997#. Again, the PIN to enter is 835-015-997#. To mute your phone, please dial *6. After muting your phone, state your name, your address, then begin your comment. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak and will be placed back on hold. You'll be placed back on mute after your comment. So with that said, we'll give it 2 minutes for citizens' comments to call in, and we will start now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me. Thank you very much. My name is Darren Anderson. I live at 13 Spawn Lane. That is Boothwyn, Pennsylvania, 19061. I have the pleasure of serving as the president for the Deer Crossing Community Association. Thank you for this opportunity to have our voice to be heard. And thank you for your service and all the things that you do on behalf of the residents of the township. I'm calling in reference to the zoning hearing board application for WP Boothwyn LLC. The members in our community, as well as the board, we have a few concerns with that application. We do understand our community is adjacent to where the business owners would like to place this self-storage facility. We're currently, I'm kind of speaking to the choir, but I know that we are zoned in District C1, which is a neighborhood commercial. This particular property should be in District 2, C2 for a highway commercial. Our other concerns is just simply the hazardous material, late night potential activities, just, graffiti, vandalism in general. We have a pretty quiet neighborhood with a great mixture of diversity and inclusion. We're not anti-business, but we would like to maintain the calamity and the quietness of our communities, as well as another concern would just be the noise as well as the lightning. And quite frankly, we're not quite sure if it would have an adverse effect on our home values. So we, once again, would like to just be on record as in opposition to this particular application. Thanks again, once again, for allowing us to have our voice heard. If there's anything that you need from our community, we stand ready to offer any services as needed.
Darren, thank you for calling in tonight and voicing your concern. On the agenda tonight, on item number 11, I'm going to ask the board to send the solicitor to the zoning hearing board to oppose the application. I am very hopeful that I will get that support for you guys at Deer Crossing. I did receive your letter today with your concerns. I forwarded that letter to our township solicitor also, and I believe there's a copy of your letter inside our board packets tonight. So again, I will be asking the board to send our solicitor to the zoning hearing board to voice the concerns. Also, I would encourage you to call in at the zoning hearing board also to put your concerns on record as well. And we will take it from there.
Thank you once again for allowing us to have our voice heard, and thank you once again for providing us with this opportunity. And I'd like to thank all the commissioners.
All right. Thank you, Darren. We'll give it another minute to see if anybody calls in. If not, we'll move on to our regular meeting. All right, let the record show that there are no more citizens' comments. At this time, we'll move on to our regular commissioners report. Item number 5 on our agenda, may I have the approval of the minutes from the January 7th, 2021 Board of Commissioner caucus meeting and the January 14th, 2021 Board of Commissioners regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and motion is carried. May I have a member of the board consider a motion acknowledging the extension granted by Larry Jackson, granting the township additional time to act on his reverse subdivision plan application.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and motion is carried.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner Whitaker.
Thank you. Ms. Catania, have you heard from Mr. Jackson's engineer? Can you speak into the mic so I can hear? Thanks, Lisa.
It would help if I turned the mic on. My apologies. We have not heard from Dave Damon concerning that.
You have not heard from him?
I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's no additional comments. We'll move on to item number 7 on our agenda. Can I have a member of the board consider a resolution approving the minor subdivision application for the Mitchell property, 5410 Chichester Avenue, submitted by James and Carol Mitchell?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried.
That's resolution 2021-6.
May I have a member of the board consider a resolution authorizing escrow funds be released for aerial signs and awnings incorporated in the amount of $592.22.
So moved. Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is carried.
That's resolution 2021-7.
Item number 9 on our agenda. May I have a member of the board consider a resolution authorizing escrow funds be released for Edward J. Donnelly and Sons in the amount of $450.00.
So moved. Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and motion is carried.
That's resolution 2021-8.
May I have a member of the board consider a resolution authorizing escrow release number 3 for Provico Pine Good Boothwyn LLC in an amount of $61,330.50.
So moved. Second.
So motion by Commissioner Rakowski and second by Commissioner Neary. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That's Resolution 2021-9.
Item number 11 on our agenda. Can I have a member of the board consider a motion authorizing the Township Solicitor to oppose the application of WP Boothwin LLC in front of the Township Zoning Hearing Board?
So moved. Seconded.
It's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
I have a question.
Yes.
Right.
You indicated that there was a letter sent. I don't see the letter in the package. I went through it quickly, but I did not see anything for this. I'm assuming this is related to the deer crossing issue that was just brought up?
Correct, Commissioner Neary. We can, if you don't have it in your packet, we can email it to you to make sure that you have it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And just for clarity, I know that we talked about this last week. Why are we opposing this?
They're asking for a use for a non-use variance. They don't have the correct, it's not zoned for
Zone
storage
C1.
facilities. It's
Okay.
zone C1. It should be in a C2. Plus the
It's not a permitted use under this particular zoning, and the residents have some concerns about that. Obviously, the process would be that the applicant would go through, make their presentation, the zoning hearing board can ask any questions. There could be testimony taken and or presented by anybody or has an interest in that. The applicant would have an opportunity to respond, and then the zoning hearing board would make their decision from that end.
Right, so
But as a party to this action, the township, although in the zoning hearing, they would always have the right, they have the ability to act as a participant, and in the event that an adverse decision, if the board should so choose, they have the ability to take an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. But that's multiple steps down the road. But I think that what Commissioner Gaudioso is asking is that the township be a party to this action and go through and represent the interests of the township and present whatever other testimony may be appropriate. As I indicated to the president before, my suggestion, if the residents or their surrounding property owners have issues or concerns, that they should register with the zoning hearing board and become a party to that action so that they would be able to represent and be able to present any testimony or question or cross-examine any witnesses.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, personally, I don't think it's the best fit use in the area since we're located near a school and we're closely to residential homes. So I think it would adversely impact the residents there. I'm asking the board to allow Mike to go. So I believe there was a motion and a second, and I believe everybody voted aye, but we can do it again. Motion and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. I'd like to thank the board. That concludes my portion of the reading. Items number 12 through 17 will be read by our Vice Chairman, Commissioner Joe Bacco.
Thank you. Consider a resolution making application to Delaware County for the township portion of the county liquid fuels and in the amount of $12,960.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That's Resolution 2021-10.
Consider a motion authorizing the Township Engineer to send a letter to Penndot approving the pavement markings and road diet recommended for Chichester Avenue at the I-95 interchange.
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any comments?
Do we have much of a choice? I mean, they marked it for the size of the roundabout, right? So basically.
This is part of the highway safety improvement project. This is an interim action taken to improve the safety at that intersection. It's just pavement markings at this point. Until such time the design completed roundabouts, they feel that this is going to assist in creating a safer vehicular.
Have they, on these markings and everything that they're doing, have they addressed the issue with the fireworks place? Isn't there an issue with the one roundabout and the fireworks property in the building? Or this has nothing to do with that
This
yet?
has nothing to do with the roundabouts. This is an interim action.
Okay.
So, once this will be removed
Right.
or revised, modified to the roundabout, project,
Okay,
once that goes into construction.
thank you.
Do we take the vote?
No, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
Consider an ordinance amending 555-79 vehicles and traffic signal specifications, furnish and install traffic control equipment of the Upper Chichester Township Code of Ordinances.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That is ordinance 741.
Consider a motion authorizing the Public Works Department to spend $35,000 in the Capital Reserve Fund for the completion on the garage at 8400 Fury Road.
Second?
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any comments on this one?
That was in last year's budget, and with COVID and all, they didn't get a chance to finish, and that's why they're finishing it this year.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
Consider a motion approving change order number 1 from Gessler Construction Company Incorporated for the Bergdahl Park Basin Improvement Project in the amount of $12,370.
Second?
Question, what was that change order for? Or is that an add-on?
With some additional pipe that we did for the outfall structure.
Hmm.
We reduced the amount of sidewalk by about 150 feet. There was a driveway apron increase that we did because of some driveway apron right in front of one of the inlets. We took care of that and increased the concrete curb farther down along the.
No, okay, thank you.
All right, if there's no other comments, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Consider a motion approving payment request number 2 from Gessler Construction Company Incorporated for the Bergdahl Park Basin Improvement Project in the amount of $50,005.50.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments on this one? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Next two items on our agenda, items 18 and 19, will be read by Commissioner Nicole Whitaker.
Thank you. Consider an ordinance amending 505-31, 3, 4, and 5 subdivision and land development design standards for all subdivisions and land development, recreation, and open space, dedication or fee in lieu of the Upper Chichester Township Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rakowski, second by Mr. Neary. Commissioner Neary, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All is favor? All in favor, motion is carried. My apologies.
That is ordinance number 742.
Consider a motion granting State Representative Brian Kirkland a partial waiver of the rental fee for the utilization of the community service building in the amount of $50 per use.
Second?
Yeah, I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to clarify, like, Ms. Whitaker was saying, per use. But I also like, I mean, for some of the services they're going to be providing down there, for the community, I'd like to make sure that our residents of Upper Chichester are very well aware of it. So if there's any opportunities or things they need, they could use the services also.
Well, that's the point. So he has been petitioned, throughout his, I guess, throughout his district, the 159th, to go to the different municipalities and have satellite locations once a month, is my understanding. So this is specifically for the residents in Upper Chi. Not that it will be closed to anyone else, but that is what this is for in our township to service residents in Upper Chichester Township.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and motion is carried.
Thank you.
All right, the next balance of items will be read by Commissioner Joe Neary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. I'd like to consider an ordinance authorizing the sale of the 2014 and 2015 Ford Explorers recently taken out of service by the police department. So moved.
Second.
All right, second by Vice Chairman Joe Baiocco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
Consider an ordinance amending 555-29 vehicles and traffic regulations, all-terrain vehicles and dirt bikes of the Upper Chichester Township Code of Ordinances. So moved.
Second.
Any comments? So, motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That's ordinance.
Consider-
3.
Consider an ordinance amending 105-2 salaries and compensation, treasurer and tax collector annual salary of the Upper Chichester Township Code of Ordinances. That I'll so move that, but I'll strike treasurer from that because the ordinance doesn't say treasurer, as it shouldn't.
Second.
And the actual ordinance, that was the titled area, but the ordinance actually is only to the tax collector, and that was corrected.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Neary, second by Commissioner Whitaker. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried.
That's ordinance 744.
Consider an ordinance amending 523-52 and 53 taxation certifications and duplicates be established effective date of the Upper Chichester Township Code of Ordinances. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments? No comments. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it and motion is carried.
That's ordinance 745.
Consider a motion approving the list of bills in the amount of $706,195.16.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Thank you. That concludes our resolutions and ordinances for tonight. At this time, we'll move on to our commissioners and professionals' comments. And let's start off with our Township Solicitor, Mr. Michael Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have my written report as part of the packet. We had a multitude of action items which were all taken care of during the business portion of the meeting. I just wanted to indicate for the record that all the ordinances were properly advertised and we are just awaiting the proofs of publication. I have seen them, but we don't have the formal document, but they were all advertised in accordance with statutes and the advertising requirements of the municipality's planning code as well as the first class township code. All the other matters, excuse me, were routine in nature and all legal matters are in order, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any comments for our Township Solicitor?
Just one question, Mike. I know I sent you the email a couple weeks ago about the parking on Irwin. I just want to
Yes.
I just want to get the process down so I can get it started. so that we can not put the police department in an untenable situation by putting the signs up and not being able to enforce it. So-
Right, no, I am working on that ordinance and getting
Okay.
that all squared away, yes, yes.
I just need to know the process so we can.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, yes, okay, yeah, under control, no problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no other questions for our solicitor. We'll move on to our township engineer, Ms. Lisa Catania.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a copy of my report. I'm happy to say that Kate's Glen has one item left on your punch list, which is the outfall structure. They need to cut one of the orifices of it. That project will be finished. I told you last week that I thought we may have a resolution for Mount Pleasant Church. However, I have not heard from Mr. Washington. So that still is outstanding. We'll probably have that escrow next month. The other matters we've already taken care of this evening. I do have anticipation of some additional submittals for Gibbons Park. I've asked for a sample of the lettering that's going to go on the wall, just so that we all can take a look at it. Mr. Seidel is verifying the colors, the signs, because the sign colors that were submitted are not what he had anticipated those to be in the standard design criteria that he had sent over. So we're going to make sure that we have the Pantone colors so that he can forward those to Voila with that project. Otherwise, I can tell you that I had several other projects that are in the works, and I can report progress.
Okay. Any comments? Any comments for our township engineer?
I just, a couple of things real quick. Lisa, on your report, is there something here at the township building of the survey work on McKay Avenue? I know we did it last year or whatever, of the drainage, so I could take a peek at it. Is there a plan or something that came out of that survey work or something we could see?
Yeah, I'll have Phil make a PDF of it. My survey.
Okay.
And send it over. I don't know that it's here.
Okay.
By the way, Commissioner, you were asking about it's in the packet, the markings for the Rochester I-95 interchange.
Right.
That very guy, we have that.
Okay. Then the other quick thing was, well, first I just want to thank you. I'm hoping we have a solution on the prime time location. And I got your report. I'm going to share it with the owner. Just so everybody's on the same page. I have a couple of questions for you about the plants compared to their list that we had from day one. And then we could actually get out there and hopefully we're not going to be able to do anything in the wintertime. And they got to be understandable in that one. I mean, some things you could do, but the plants aren't going to be able to get planted until spring.
That's very
So I'm hopefully we could resolve this issue. A lot of the issue is coming from the other up end to this location. So I have a couple of questions I'll ask you on site or whatever. We'll hopefully resolve this issue sooner than later. So, but I want to thank you for that, and hopefully we can resolve it.
As you noted, I have the various locations that are causing.
Right,
contributing
in the
to that
report.
problem.
Right, and you did not leave any of that out because it's not just this one location. It's coming from several locations. Unfortunately, this is the lowest point, and that's where it's staying. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. There's other questions for our township, at least,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to ask her something in my report. I'll just do it now and get it all done. They and Ms. Catania met with some residents on Bethel Avenue about some stream issues they were having on. She sent a letter. I was just wondering if you got a response.
I sent a letter to both the owners of Larkin's Quarter because in doing doing a walkthrough as well. The residents did a walkthrough and sent photos. We found a lot of parts
Shopping
from
carts.
the shopping center in the creek. So I've sent a letter to them as well as the owner of the basin. Although I believe that Larkin's Corner has a right to some stormwater rights for that basin. So I included the basin in both letters. I have not heard any response back. What I asked them to do is to provide a report from a licensed professional that is qualified to do a stormwater facility inspection. And I have to give them 30 days to submit to the township. That may only be the report, but the report should have the remedial action in it. I don't know if we have a contact for Walmart, because many of those carts are Walmart carts, that maybe we can have some of that removed prior to the owner of the property getting to the tenant and having them removed. If we have that, it would be helpful.
So you're saying the carts from that retention at Chelsea and Chai is getting down to Bethel Avenue?
I think,
The creek behind the house is on that line.
Right.
yeah. There's a lot of issues there. There's some issues with the creek being blocked. There's other areas where, unfortunately, the creek has been concreted. The banks of the creek have been cut, reduce the cross-sectional area. So there's various things that are happening down along that watershed that's causing issue, including
Unique.
it is unique.
But some of the residents have been getting flooded. And they haven't in previous years. All right, thanks, Lisa.
All right, if there's no other questions for our township engineer, we'll move on to our township manager, Mr. George Needles.
Thank you very much. All reports are on file in the administrative offices. The administrative offices and Public Works Department will be closed for the President's Day holiday on Monday, the 15th. There will be no trash pickup. Monday's routes, along with Tuesday's routes, will be collected on Tuesday. Thank you.
Any questions for our township manager? All right, if not, we'll move on to our commissioner's report. We'll start off with our Vice Chairman, Commissioner Joe Baiocco.
Thank you. Public Works, everybody knows what they've been up to lately. They've been pretty busy with the weather. All the reports are on file for there. The Sewer Authority, I know we've been having some discussions thrown around with after talking with Lisa, you know, maybe talking about a stormwater authority, and I'd like to continue them talks. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Excuse me, yes, I do. Our traffic, we did the big project for Johnson & Johnson, I think it was, or who it was, not Johnson & Johnson, the streetlights, when we went LED, Johnson Controls. When I come home from work late at night, and I don't know if because we're colder this year than we ever been for a while. I mean, last couple winters been somewhat warm. But there's an awful lot of traffic lights that are just about out or really low or dim on Chai Avenue. I don't know what our warranty was with the bulbs themselves at first, but you got them from Malatesta, Randall Avenue, Bethel and Mill, Bethel and Chai. I mean, and that's me just going home from work. And it's like,
The traffic lights or the street lights?
The street lights. So I know I had to go get the pole numbers and stuff, but did we have any kind of warranty on these bulbs at the beginning? I don't know if they last forever, but there is. And I saw the other one coming tonight on Boothwyn Road and Bethel right in that area. And the one that's really is Bethel and Mill, where we put two up and it was nice and bright, but now it's dark again because the other one's. It just seems this year, a lot of them are just going dimmer
Shoot me an
real quick.
email of the problem spots and I'll get it to Bob.
All right. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions for Commissioner Joe Baca, we'll move on to Commissioner Nicole Whitaker.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. All reports for the library are on file. We reviewed the recreation report last week. Those are also on file. We'll have some recreations from the rec committee next month. Their monthly meeting is next Wednesday. They have some agenda items that the board is going to be reviewing. The only thing that I have tonight that I wanted to share that I mentioned last week is Historical Society member Cindy Charney put together some information regarding one of our members, our community members who's since passed. With this being Black History Month, I wanted to share a little bit about this individual. So give me a second to pull it up and I will read that. And George, if you need me to send this to you for the minutes, I can do that. Okay. All right, so Riley H. Merritt was an exceptional man. Merritt grew up on his father's 500-acre farm in Lumberton, Mississippi, where he learned the value of hard work. In 1917, after graduating high school, Merritt enrolled in Tuskegee Normal, an industrial institute for colored young men and women, where he majored in architecture. Mr. Merritt interrupted his studies at Tuskegee with a year's service in the Army and a year as principal at Lumberton Elementary School. It was during his years at Tuskegee that Merritt met and befriended American educator Booker T. Washington and world-renowned chemist George Washington Carver. Following graduation in 1923, Merritt moved to Philadelphia. He continued his education attending Drexel at night while working during the day. It was during this time that Merritt gained his first real estate experience. As a realtor during the 1920s and 30s, Merritt became well familiar with housing issues faced by Black Americans in cities. Following the passage of the New Deal in 1933, the Federal Housing Authority's practices of redlining and racial confidence and deeds, as well as segregation laws, prevented many Black Americans from obtaining mortgages and purchasing homes. The GI Bill passed in 1944, which relied on the FHA underwriting guidelines, further hampered Black veterans' abilities to purchase homes. In 1936, Merritt acquired a 12-acre tract in Upper Chichester Township. Though he originally planned to build his home there, he realized it could provide an alternative for Blacks who had limited housing options in the city. The first homes were constructed in 1941. The community of 45 homes was completed in 1972. Merritt named the village in memory of his brother, Excelsior, who died of pneumonia in his early 20s. Merritt and his wife, Agnes, and sons, Leroy and James, moved into the community in 1954. Among his many accomplishments, he was the first Black realtor and developer in Delaware County, and one of the first Black realtors and insurance agents in the city of Philadelphia. In addition, he wrote the authorized biography of George Washington Carver. The book, From Captivity to Fame, The Life of George Washington Carver, was published in 1929. He was also co-founder and developer of Vine Memorial Baptist Church, one of the largest churches in the city of Philadelphia. And in 1985, he was honored by the NAACP as recipient of the prestigious Freedom Fund Award. After moving to Excelsior Village, Merritt and his wife lived there the remainder of their lives. Merritt died in 1990 at the age of 93 at his home in the village. That's just a little snippet of his life. This, again, was presented put together and prepared by Cindy Tarney, a member of our Historical Society. And she's also working on compiling some information to present to the state so that we can have an historical marker by the state. Hopefully we're successful in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitaker. Two things. Happy belated birthday. I can't let that go. I do it every single year.
I know. Thank you.
Holding at 35. So
yes.
And just number two, you mentioned the Tuskegee. One of my favorite moments in American history was the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. They were the first African American. Right. They were the first African American war bomber. Excuse me. They were the first African American fighter pilots, and they had an extraordinary record of providing escorts for our B-52 bombers. I believe their nickname was Blacktails. So I would encourage everybody to do some reading on that period of time of history about those pilots and men. So I'm a World War II fan and a Civil War fan also. So, right. But anyway,
thank you.
I want everybody to be aware of that. So with that said, we'll move on to, if there's no questions for Commissioner Whitaker, we'll move on to Commissioner Ed Rakowski.
Thank you. Mine should be nice and long, but it won't. George didn't give me nothing to read tonight, so that's fine. But Nicole, very well done. I love hearing about all the history, and especially the names of these villages and everywhere. I mean, there's a reason for everything around here. Naming the streets or people that started Upper Chi, Excelsior Village. That was real nice. So thank you. Mine is short and sweet. Nicole and Mr. Neary, you'll have your report for the medics. George has that copy for you. Working on my fire marshal so I can have a monthly report from him. I want to echo what Joe Biacco said in regards to the highway department. I want to thank them too, because while we're all home in bed and everybody else is, not the fire department, which is volunteer, the EMS, they're out there during these storms constantly. Sometimes it seems more than norm when a snowstorm or a thunderstorm happens. And the highway department was out there with them when needed. They get there before the fire department to be able to make sure, or the EMS to make sure they get to the location they need to get. I want to thank them on both sides, the fire department, which is volunteer, and the EMS. January was busy. Like I said, we got a couple more storms coming up. I think we're making up this year for the last 3 years in just the month of February. But everything else, the emergency management, George, reports on file with that. The only thing I need to do, make sure we're on the same page this year, is once we feel we got most of the business list together from the businesses, if we could get that over to the emergency management so we could do a run through to make sure the business phone numbers are not the store numbers. So when the fire department does call 2 o'clock in the morning, they're not hearing the phone ring inside and not going to the emergency. The emergency management team wants to try to confirm all these phone numbers and make sure we don't have that issue throughout the year. And it only happens a handful out of the year, but sometimes it's 2 o'clock in the morning and we would like to be able to reach somebody. The Boothwyn Town Center Task Force, we have our meeting with the task force in April. I know there's a report on file now, and the task force and the planner are just reviewing right now a list of stakeholders to interview during the process, and our engineer and planner will be also on this list. They're making headway. Like I said, we'll be meeting in April. We'll have another short minute report for February. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet and just keep it that way. So if anybody has anything, I'll be glad to answer it.
Are there any questions or comments for Commissioner Everkowski? All right, if not, we'll move on to Commissioner Joe Neary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. The financial reports are available at the office, as well as the tax collector's report. And the police department report is available as well. Just a couple things that I did find the Penndot or the Deer Crossing letter. It was back in another section, so I found that. I thought it would be with the resolution, so we don't need to send it to me. The other thing is, George, and I know I asked this a couple months ago, we had requested a response from Penndot in regards, I know we're waiting for Jake's Breaks, but we also asked about the flooding issues that are inherent with that project on Mill Road in Bethel. And we have not received any response, I assume.
The last response we received was from the consultant working on the project that they would.
I can't hear you. You moved away.
The last response we received was from the consultant working on that project stating that they would pass it along.
Okay, can we follow up with them to see if there was any response? Because I don't want them to start the project and have a flood and no one's able to get to their homes.
That's a point well taken, Commissioner Neary.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any question or comments for Commissioner Neary?
I got a question. I could probably go to Joe or George. Has anybody got any complaints about the Bethel and Larkin of strong smell of gas in that area? I know they're doing work there, but I've had 2 or 3 people ask me about it.
They completed that work, didn't they, George? I mean, I haven't seen them down there in a month.
They did. There was a truck down there today from like all type of companies, marking companies.
I wonder if somebody called and complained, because
Yeah. I can check with Penndot, or I'm sorry, Pico, to see if there's any additional work.
or if anybody else has complained about the road. All right.
I have a question for George. I know that we have reached out to Penndot regarding 452, regarding 95, the underpass on Market Street. Have they responded? I know you said you were going to have Lisa maybe try to get her contact, any contacts that Lisa might have. Have we done that yet? Or we?
Yeah, I mean, we've been reaching out on multiple levels. I think it's worth asking the new District 6 coordinator for a meeting, because the issue is that all of the things that we're dealing with are like, this one's a capital project, so it's a project manager. So you go to the project manager. But this one is maintenance, so then you go to the maintenance manager for this one. This one,
Okay.
Like it's very disjointed group and very difficult to deal with them. Maybe we try to get with the new district supervisor and kind of,
They were working on that yesterday.
lack of a better term, come to Jesus meeting about how they can help us with that.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because that from the storm and took out half of this hill, and they still haven't responded. I mean, that's a problem. So if we could set something up, that would be helpful.
I'm wondering as well, if, because it's at the approach, that it may be railroad. So, yeah, I thought of that today, and I was gonna let you know, tonight, and I didn't.
If there's no other questions for Commissioner Neary, we'll wrap up with my report. Just a friendly reminder again about the Wells Fargo application. It's my understanding that the applicant has now received all the reviews from our professionals, the engineer, zoning, and fire marshal. I believe that we'll be going in front of the planning board this month. We have next month to act on it by March, I believe. Also, just a friendly reminder of the 650 Cherry Tree Road land development sketch plan. Well, it was a sketch plan that came in. I would encourage commissioners to look at it. If they have any questions or comments, please forward them to the board about that. I really don't have anything else tonight to report on. We covered everything. If there are any questions or comments or concerns for me?
I got one little thing. I followed this is a follow-up question on the last time I questioned about the new construction committee and asking that the commissioner, if it's in that person's ward or individual's ward. But what's how can I say this? What's the procedure of anybody coming in front of the new construction committee, and who makes the decision of if they're able to come in front of this new construction committee? I thought, it's my understanding the committee was formed to give, whether it's a resident, a business, or an applicant, whoever it may be, an opportunity to bring a sketch plan without having to spend thousands of dollars beforehand to make sure it may fit the footprint of the area, so they don't spend thousands of dollars, resident builders or whatever, to be able to say, hey, yeah, this doesn't really fit the footprint, that this might help. The zoning officer has his opinion, whatever. But who makes the decision to say, hey, I got an application here, I'd like to go in front of your construction committee, and then...
Well, the way,
Some of it does.
just let me comment. So we have a planning board who reviews all these, we have a planning board, and in our saldo plan, you know, you can either bring a sketch plan to the planning board, you know, preliminary plans, you know, final, for final approval. They're set up to do that review. So the idea of the construction committee is our professionals do an official review. And if there's any questions or concerns that they might want to vet out, we bring them before the construction committee to go over the reviews that our professionals have done. That's the intent of it. So it's kind of hard to do, to bring somebody before a construction committee without doing any type of official reviews of what they want to build. It's kind of a gray area because Mike, Lisa, if you want to kind of join in, if I'm explaining this correctly, if I'm not explaining this correctly, if they come in and there's a dialogue between what can be done and not done, you know, there might be a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if I have an application,
right,
and asking for a construction meeting, and I give it to you, and that gives the professionals time to read it or whatever, and then the date's not going to be for another month maybe, or a couple of weeks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who makes the decision to that applicant to say it never even gets there?
The applicant, I think part of the confusion has been that there were several items that were, quote, requested to go in front of the construction committee. And when the application or what the concept that was being presented would have required a change of zoning or variances or anything, those were not appropriate things to go in front of the construction committee. The construction committee could only really deal with items that were already in approved use and to understand the process of what was going on. I think some of the items that were being asked to do in front of the construction committee were not appropriate because they would have required a change of zoning, and members of that construction committee, either the Board of Commissioners, may have had to rule on either special exceptions or conditional uses. So it was really set up, as I understand it, or at least what I was requested to look at originally, was whether or not the use, which was an approved use or an acceptable use within those particular zoning areas, would be something that the commissioners would consider. George, is that your understanding of why you had that committee set up?
So basically, the way it's been working as of right now is they would come in, and they typically come in through Barbara Kelly, through the Assistant Township Manager. And
George, could you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Can you hear
Or
me now?
turn it on? Yes.
Can you hear me now? So typically they come in through Barbara, and then she sends the information over, and I would review it. And there have been a couple of the instances in the past where I've said I didn't think this was appropriate because of those types of situations, incompatible uses, things like that. So I think the process is bring it into Barbara. She lays it out of like, this is what they want to talk about. And then we review it and determine, is this something that would be easy to go forward with to look at, or is this something that's going to cause us legal issues? Then we get
I guess to Mr. Pierce's point, a lot of times developers want to talk. And, sometimes we get the questions, do you think the board would be willing, do you think the board is willing to accept my business if they come into the township? But I'm going to need several variances and a zoning change. Can you get me 2 or 3 votes to do that? I don't think that's appropriate to do at the construction committee. Correct, Mr. Pierce?
Correct.
So again, the construction committee is set up as somebody comes in, there's an official review by a professionals, by the planning board, and they might want to come in and say, hey guys, this is what I've read your comments. Is there any leeway, or is there anything that we can work together to maybe get things done? Or, hey, I have a hardship here, and they would explain it there, correct?
Well, not really. I mean, you really can't go, if they have a hardship and they're going to need a change in zoning, that would have to go to the zoning hearing board. And I would be a little concerned if we had members of that construction committee making comments like, yeah, we can support that, or no, we can't support that, when the board of commissioners might have to make a ruling or take a position on something. So I think it's more of a concept and a process type thing, I guess, is the easiest way for me to explain it.
Yeah, so kind of what we had conceptually mapped out here in the office is how it would work would be, if you are a green developer and you're coming into the township and you don't know the engineer, you don't know any of the people, you could request that meeting and come in and see who the reviewers were going to be, know who everybody is, and you could say, hey, look, this is what I'm potentially trying to do. And then on the flip side, it could also be used in conjunction with your subdivision land development process to to review reviews that have happened. So all the reviews come from the different parties, and prior to someone to go into the planning commission, they could come back and say, okay, I just wanted some affirmation on the review. Is this what you're looking for? Is this what, so that their plans are more developed? The other thing would be, if someone is more of a seasoned developer and they're bringing something in that is like a use by right and it's valid, then they could obviously present that plan to the board at that time. Conceptually, they wouldn't be able to discuss anything like when I say the board, I mean the construction committee. But they wouldn't be able to have discussion on any types of parameters around the plan. It would be, okay, that's great. That appears like it may be over 1,000 square feet. That would activate our stormwater ordinance, make sure that you have calculations done. Provide them advice,
That's what I thought it was for.
Right.
Like a new developer's coming in or something, and, I got this plot of ground here. I was thinking of putting 20 houses on it. Which route do I take?
Yeah, and so unfortunately, some of the applications we had so far, like in the past year. So for instance, we had an individual who wanted to present possibly an apartment complex in an R2 district. Zoning, we had to kibosh that. We did have we had one that was a quadruplex, I'll call it, a 4-unit home to go on an R2 district again, this time on repository properties that they didn't own. So it was kind of like multitude of we want to get these properties from you, the township, but we also need a zoning variance So I didn't feel that that was appropriate for us to go without that flushing that out. And then we did have, sometimes where there's zoning variances that are like a use variance. But I think if someone comes in conceptually with something that's a use by right, sitting down with them and looking at it and just saying, oh, okay, great, here's the reviewers, and you feel that you've got this plan developed out far enough, then you can feel free to apply for a preliminary subdivision plan development. If you feel like you want more feedback, but you're not ready for a full application, you can go sketch, you kind of advise them for that.
So that applicant would be basically, you have, with your opinion as our manager, would recommend yes or no. And I do agree with Joe was saying, and exactly what you're saying. It's more of somebody that doesn't know, or even the residents. Residents do not know which way to go, and they're just looking for the guidance. But I wanted to know, and you answered it, was who made that? If I'm the resident and I give my applicant, and then no, you can't have a construction meeting. I just wanted to know who made that decision. So, okay.
The other positive thing, or the other, what I feel could be very useful with the new construction, that is a committee of the board. So once you've done the reviews and you're not necessarily ready to go through the resolution, there's still items that need to be flushed out. The new construction committee could be very helpful so that you can come back to your entire board based on the conversations that you had at that particular meeting. So a lot of these waivers that we're talking about during a commissioners meeting could be flushed out through that committee of the board and then taken to the board that this is the recommendation from the group.
So it varies based off of what level of application. What Lisa's talking about there is an active subdivision development application that could go in front of that committee. Also that exploratory action.
Okay.
My apologies for not explaining it clearly, but just to let everybody know what George has said. I mean, me and him, Lisa, Mike, we all talked about the process about if somebody's green, they don't know anybody in the township, and they want to like a meet and greet. That process has been vetted out amongst our, between Lisa, Mike, and George, and Barbara Kelly also. So anyway, did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There's no other questions or comment or new business? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight, and have a safe week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Happy
Good night,
Valentine's
everybody.
Day. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's
I got a
Day.
burp.
Ed, you can drop my chocolates off at my house.
How'd I know?
It's your birthday.
All right, bye.
I did.
I forgot about